Today we'll be giving an overview of the Protestant Reformation, the event that began with questioning of the situation in the Christian church, the eventual split within the church among the various sects in the 16th century, and the reforms that resulted. The church faced various problems in the 15th and 16th century, many of them focusing around corruption. There was a new focus on wealth by the clergy, who were some of the most wealthy people in Europe, particularly the high clergy, the bishops, archbishops, cardinals, and the pope. Problem with nepotism, giving offices to family and friends. Simony, the selling of offices to people who wanted to purchase offices to gain the power and wealth that those offices offered. Pluralism, people such as bishops and archbishops holding more than one office, being bishops of various areas across Europe. And as a result of that, the problem of absenteeism, them not being in their diocese or archdiocese to serve their people. Growing papal power and wealth was a problem, and overall distrust of the papacy and the church, especially in wake of the Great Schism and the Babylonian captivity period, when you had such problems there, and also with the impact of Renaissance humanism and skepticism, which had people questioning the church. In the 14th and 15th century, then, you had a series of early reformers who began to question this power and corruption. They also often promoted a personal relationship with God, taking emphasis away from the path through the church to salvation. They also argued that the Bible should be read by everyone in the vernacular language of the time. Remember that Latin was the primary language of the church and what the Bible was only written in, and very few people could read Latin. So many of these reformers, including Jan Hus from Bohemia, current-day Czech Republic, and John Wycliffe from England, argued that the Bible should be read in the local languages. These people, however, were successfully suppressed by the church. Into this situation came Martin Luther, Catholic priest and teacher at university. He was also a humanist in many ways and was interested in the early church and the church doctrines. He became enraged when, in 1517, Johann Tetzel, a Catholic priest, came to Wittenberg selling indulgences for the building of St. Peter's in Rome. Indulgences done in this way allow people to buy their way out of purgatory. Luther, in turn, wrote the 95 Theses and nailed them to the church door in Wittenberg on October 31st, 1517, beginning the Reformation. The 95 Theses questioned the sale of indulgences, criticized them, and put more focus on things like faith that were central to Martin Luther's beliefs and what he believed should be central to the church's beliefs. Now it's important to remember that Luther was attempting to reform the church. He wanted to fix things, but the church wasn't having this. And so after many years of disagreement and fight, Luther was excommunicated when he refused to recant and was then forced to form his own sect. Martin Luther began the Reformation, but he really didn't have its biggest impact. Lutheranism was focused on Germany, but other reformers soon came out of the woodwork and started questioning the church as well. The most prominent of these was John Calvin, who was also a Catholic priest from France, and expanded the Reformation far beyond Germany. His main idea, which altered greatly what Luther was saying and the church was saying, was predestination, the idea that there were groups of elect people that God had predetermined to be saved. Also, Calvinism had very strict ideas and promoted a more theocratic society based on church teachings. Calvinism had a much bigger impact because it spread beyond Calvin and his original followers in Switzerland. It spread to the Netherlands, where the Dutch Reformed Church was founded. It spread to France, where groups known as the Huguenots began impacting political and social life there. It spread to England, where groups such as the Puritans would later obviously have an impact on American culture as well. And Scotland, with reformers like John Knox, and what would become the Presbyterian Church. You also had radical groups popping up across Europe, such as the Zwingliites and the Anabaptists, some of whom were both suppressed by Catholics and Protestants. You also had Henry VIII of England breaking his church there from Rome and establishing the Anglican Church. this more of a political play than a religious play, as Henry wanted more political power for himself in the church and didn't want to follow what the church was telling him he had to do. In early parts of the Reformation, the church attempted to simply suppress reformers like Martin Luther, as they had done for centuries with people like Huss and Wycliffe. But this fails, mainly due to new interconnectedness of society, new questioning of people, and people being able to read things due to inventions like the printing press, which were spreading the ideas of Luther and other reformers around much more quickly than they had before. Eventually, the church got its act together and began to fight the Reformation with new religious orders of nuns and priests, such as the Jesuits, who went out directly trying to reconvert areas and stem the tide of the spreading of Protestant ideas. The church also called the Council of Trent in the 1540s and 1550s to reform church practices, eliminating the abuses such as nepotism, simony, and pluralism, and curbing the sale of indulgences. At the same time, the church reaffirmed its beliefs, dismissed predestination, and validated the equality of faith and church practices. The impact of the Reformation would last far longer after its events of itself. For over a century, religious wars would rage across Europe as various groups of people were fighting for power. And in the political aspects of the Reformation, various people, princes, and church officials, and their alliances, and who they were loyal to, affected what was happening across Europe at the time. This led to religious wars in France, the English Civil War in England, and the 30 Years' War in Germany, as well as other wars between Spain and other powers. It also led to a north-south split in Europe, with Northern Europe, Northern Germany, the Netherlands, England, Scotland, Scandinavia, becoming mostly Protestant, and Southern Europe, France, Southern Germany, Italy, Spain, Portugal, remaining predominantly Catholic, a split that still exists today.